Thank you, David. Next, we're going to hear from two people doing the next part of the presentation. The first is Kelly Scamacci, who is a senior from Pittsford, majoring in rec and leisure with a career goal of being a recreational therapist. I'm going to tell you a story. We had selected all of our Team Memphis crew. We had decided we had just the right number to go with, but boy, we had to have everybody go in order to make everything work. And then one morning I received an email from one of the students who had been through our prep, said, I really want to go, but it's not going to work. I have to drop out. I was in the middle of writing a memo that I didn't want to write to everybody, and I had typed the first line. I have some bad news. There was a knock on my door. It was Kelly. And she says, I hope I'm not interrupting. I intended to apply for Memphis, but I never really got to it. Is there still room? We talked. We made arrangements. I typed the second line, and I have good news. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly was definitely our gain. Kelly is dedicated to service. She's very active with Circle K on campus and in the community. She was recently named winner of the William B. DeCarlo Scholarship for Rec and Leisure, which will go to help support her studies. And perhaps her experience was best summed up by the title of the final reflection, which we saw in Mike's piece, Why Must All Good Things End? Cassie Johns is a senior major in English from Pine Bush. She plans to work in higher education and student affairs, going to graduate school in the fall, weighing several options in the Albany area. And she's been building an impressive portfolio of experiences along the way. Recently, I attempted to introduce her to somebody from the admissions department. Turns out it was already her boss. She's also working as an intern in the Community Development Office. She's interning for Mark Knoll in laying groundwork for the Center for Engaged Students. And if anybody needed help on anything, Cassie was a go-to person. You could always count on Cassie being willing to help. She also is probably, I think, the key person who led us to Ninka Eerkens, the Dutch student who was profiled a couple of minutes ago, who's been traveling the U.S. alone. And we learned a lot about ourselves by what Ninka saw. And Ninka later came, visited us here at Brockport, visited one of my classes. I can't think of anybody more appropriate than Kelly and Cassie to share their thoughts on service.
Hi. So we're going to talk about service learning. Dale already talked about the 3 components that make up service learning, but I'm going to talk about the importance of it. When I saw the flyer and the stylus for go to Memphis for the winter, I was like, what's in Memphis? Also, I saw that it said service, and I didn't want to do service over the winter. I think I wanted to relax, so it took me a while, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So I went. Once I got there, I really understood why it's important for service learning. If I would have stayed in the classroom for the winter, I don't know if I would have gotten the same experience. It really did do something for me personally, and also really changed my outlook of the nation and maybe even the world. So it's really important, and I'm hoping and I'm glad that our college and many other colleges are starting to value service learning, and that we start to implement them into programs, not just the communications department, but for other majors as well, so that other students can get the same effect and value that I did. So Kelly's going to talk a little bit about community service, another aspect of service learning.
I just wanted to talk about what service learning was in general. As Dale said before, it's just the incorporation of community service within an educational setting. But I believe, after going to Memphis, that this definition has changed. And I feel like service learning is different because of the factors that we faced. We were with the people we were with the community, with the goals that we had for our project. Service learning just became much more, it was more interactive, it was more voluntary, and it was just more fun in general.
Something else that I really took away from the trip, and I was not on my agenda for Team Memphis, was our AmeriCorps dinner. I think, yeah, that's our picture. I had no idea what AmeriCorps was. I knew that Katie, who came with us, was an AmeriCorps, and I was like, oh, it's like the Peace Corps, and I don't want to do that. And I'm going to go to grad school, and that's how that's going to go. But once I met with them, and I still wasn't convinced once I met with them, but once I met with them and then I went home and I really looked and I saw the opportunities that AmeriCorps had, I was like, I think this is something that I should really consider. So I've been researching different jobs and applying for them all over, one in Memphis, Boston, and Newark, New Jersey City School District, and all these really great places that are not like Brockport and not like where I'm from in Pine Bush. It's completely different because I think I learned when I was in Memphis that you don't have to stay in your niche and what you do. You can kind of go out and try something new and engulf yourself into another community and really learn something from the people that you're with. So I think that the AmeriCorps dinner really, and the AmeriCorps themselves really changed my future plans a lot. I don't know if I enjoy it still, that my plans are messed up, but in a good way. So I think that's something I really took away personally from the experience. So Kelly, do you want to finish up?
Something I took away from this experience was a change in perspectives. I'm from a really suburban area, and I've never really traveled on my own or been to the South, and I've never stayed in a hostel. I think all of us were a little a little weary before we went to the hostel because a lot of them have negative perceptions because of the movie. And it's true. Once I went there, I found out that it was like a really nice place. It's affordable. It's a good place to travel if you're a student and you have a budget. But it's also really fun and interactive. We wouldn't have met so many great people like Liz was talking about if we hadn't stayed in such a place. I also witnessed the concept of Southern hospitality. I feel like it's different than in New York. Like, people just take more time to get to know you, and people are just like more caring, and they're concerned about you and what you're doing and how you're going to do it. And the last one I think is the most important is it changed my idea of what community service could be. Like, I thought community service was just something you do in your own community to better people that you know that are around you. But I found that community service can be expanded and that you can do it wherever you go.
We're just going to finish up with just talking a little bit about, we were 1,000 miles away from home, and yeah, I still feel like that was home. I've been in Brockport for 4 years, and I feel like this is home, but I was in Memphis for 9 days, and I have another home, so now I have 3 homes. So I think that it's just amazing, and I don't know if you can understand it unless you try it. So I think that's where I'm advocating for service learning, and that you try something new, even if it's like service learning and going on, into the Rochester City School District, or volunteering at this organization, just putting yourself out there into a different community than you're used to, because it really does change you, no matter how far away it is. So, and for the interest of time.
And did you want to say anything about that? Okay. We're all done.
I want to briefly introduce a couple of people who played an extremely important role in making this whole thing work. They're Katie Pezzamenti and Amy Kruppenbacher. I couldn't think of 2 professional staff people I'd rather work with than these 2. Katie's originally from Buffalo. She's a Brockport grad. She worked in AmeriCorps. She's now a residence director over at McLean Hall. Katie's enthusiastic in absolutely everything she does. Students know she cares about them, and she is always on. Always. So now you have to be on. Katie's excellent also at gauging the mood of a group and knowing just the right prescription for what to do in a certain circumstance. And I really came to appreciate also how gifted she is in leading reflections and helping students formulate their thoughts, which is an important part of service learning, and helping them express them so that they get the most out of the experience. Amy is the consummate professional at working to deal with changes and problems that are inherent in this kind of trip, and boy, did we have changes. She's originally from Rochester. She received both her bachelor's and master's from Brockport. She has served as a residence director. She now works for Karen Pashadley in the Office of Community Development. Before the trip, you folks may not even know this, she did the budget. She helped with the itineraries. No, you didn't? And Karen worked with them? Everybody did. Well, I know you were part of it. And she was also took care of 100 details. She was a key part of the selection and training process for everybody involved. And many of you followed our trip on the Brockport Team Memphis Facebook page. Quite simply, those stories would not have been there had it not been for Amy's persistence. Many viewed and shared and commented on the photos. Again, Amy played a critical part in making it happen, and you saw the result of her work. She was always the last one to bed. always working late into the night, and frequently the first one up in the morning. And she made sure our arrangements were made, all the finances were taken care of, so we didn't have to worry about those things, and she made sure everybody was thanked. Quite simply, the trip would not have happened without her input and without the input from Karen Pashadley's office and without the input and help of a lot of people in the administration here, whom you folks probably don't even know about. Real briefly, let me introduce Katie Pezzamenti and Amy Gruppenbacher.
The reason is, I actually think it's funny because it's kind of like a metaphor of the trip. The trip is not about us. The trip is about all the people that you heard speak. And so it actually is kind of fitting. Like, you don't want to come here and hear Amy and I speak. Maybe you do, but we'll stay after. But I actually think it's quite fitting that, you know, the most, and for me, some of the most untold stories have already been told. And, you know, I'll let Amy say her piece, but I stand here today very proud because, you know, did you ever have a day when somebody asked you, how was your day or how was your trip? And when we got back from Memphis, people asked us that. How did it go? How can you sum up what we experienced? All I could do was narrow it down to one word, and for me that word will echo in my heart forever. The word is transformative. The trip was truly transformative from the faculty, staff, and student level. I am a different person for having participated, and I'm very grateful for having been a part of the experience.
And I just want to add, again, I know we're wrapping up right now, but I just wanted to thank all of the members of Team Memphis and every single person from Memphis, Tennessee, and here in Brockport, and everybody in between that had actually helped make our trip such a success. And I'm so absolutely proud of the 9 students that came together and became such a great family. Thank you.
With some concluding thoughts, Bobby Rua.
I know we're running pretty late on time, and we were going to show a second video of the fun things we did, but we don't really have time for that. What I want to say is I can't truly tell you what happened on this trip and how we went from being a group of strangers to being a family. The community living environment, the plans changed day to day. We were doing one thing one day, and then we found out the next day we were doing something different. But to the students, I want to say, you hear a lot about your college experience. And what you do every day, going to classes, going to the library, doing your homework, that's college. But trips like this, that's the experience. And there's a lot of faculty in the room. And what I have to say to you is it's trips like these that make Brockport worth attending. It's trips like this that make our college what it is. So to the students, whenever you get a chance, go on a trip like this. You're only going to be in college once, so take that opportunity to get everything you can out of it. You only get out of college what you put into it. So thank you for attending our presentation. We were going to have a Q&A, but since we ran out of time, we'll stick around, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to come down and ask us individually. But thank you for coming today, and have a great day off.